DNA testing has for a while become a thorn in most African women's flesh whenever mentioned, with a cry that a man must look after all his children born under his roof. But most men beg to differ, containing that it's every man's pride to pass down his seed, and thus the need to be sure that that which he calls his offspring is indeed biologically his own. This has sparked outrage, fear, divorce, and even murder in some families, as we shall see in today's case, when a woman does the unthinkable after her husband demanded a DNA test for all their 5 children. This is the story of Joline Dusabe Mutesi. Welcome back to Tavern Crime Chronicles. Here we explore strange, mysterious, chilling, solved and unsolved cases in Africa, Uganda and beyond. If you have the nerve for fascinating stories, this is your channel. So please join us today, and together we'll uncover the hidden mysteries behind the high fences, the closed doors, and the secrets lurking in the shadows. Today's story takes us to Mutungo, Zone 8 in Akawa Division, Kampala, where the residents are still in great shock after the police arrested one of their own on suspicions of the murder of her own child. I know you are wondering what could have compelled a mother to release the monster within her and kill her own child. Well, here are the details. Joline and Chris Rugari met in 2013, and their love quickly blossomed into marriage. Together they bore 5 children, of whom the eldest is 14 years. Her husband, Chris Akansas Rugari, is a country diplomat, an honorary consul of Zimbabwe, and thus is more often out of the country. However, their marriage was an indelible example of true love to those who knew them, and an envy amongst her peers, as she seemed to have it all. A loving husband, a beautiful marriage blessed with children, and well, riches. However, not all that glitters is gold, as this castle built on sand would come crashing down in 2023 when a random number, a gentleman, phoned Chris and demanded that he wanted to pick up his child from his family. Bewildered and feeling confused, he thought it was a wrong number or even a crook trying to disorganize his marriage. When the calls kept coming, as the unfamiliar man demanded for his child, Chris told his wife, Joline, about the weird calls he had been receiving from a man claiming to have fathered a child with her, and she denied the claims, telling her husband that someone was trying to throw their marriage on the rocks. Chris was confused, and the only way to put his fears to rest was to conduct a DNA test on all their 5 children to confirm if they were truly his biological children. He opted to test the first 3 children of 14, 12, and 10 years respectively. Unfortunately, the DNA test results revealed that only 1 child of the 3 belonged to Chris, and the 2 are not biologically related to him. Chris was so distraught with the news that he got so depressed and devastated, as he was so attached to the 2 children who had now turned out not to be his own. As he slowly recovered from the stab in the heart, he composed himself and asked for a divorce without testing the 2 remaining children, the 2.5-year-old Nganwa Rugari and his 12-month-old sister. After the cat was let out of the bag, Joline stayed with the 4 remaining children, as one was taken by his father, who had initially been demanding to have his child. Following the row between Chris and Joline, the eldest son, who is the confirmed biological son, started attacking the mother for having cheated on their dad, and that broke their one loving family. These words of criticism from her own son left her so hurt and injured that she told Chris, her now estranged husband, that he would never take away their 2.5-year-old son Ganwa. When Chris finally filed for divorce on grounds of adultery, the court ordered for fresh DNA analysis, which was to be done by the government analytical laboratory before results were tendered in court as evidence of the infidelity. In the presence of lawyers from both parties, experts were to pick samples on all the 5 children around the end of March 2025. However, on the fateful night of April 1st, at around 8:30 p.m., Joline reported that their 2-year-old son, Ganwa, had fallen from the first floor of their residential home, and she rushed him to Chitintari Hospital at around 10 p.m., where he was examined and discharged with a recommendation for a CT scan. However, at around 5 a.m. in the morning, the following morning, the mother returned to the hospital with a son in critical condition and unfortunately was pronounced dead on arrival. She immediately informed her relatives and those of her husband about the unfortunate death and asked them to remove the body from the hospital to a funeral home so as to quicken the burial process. At first, they believed her story that the boy had fallen through the window and also mourned with her for the unfortunate incident. When it was later discovered that Joline did not take their son for a CT scan as recommended, questions arose, to which she argued that his condition had deteriorated so fast. A close family friend advised them not to bury so fast before getting police clearance, since the claim as cause of death was an accident. Joline's hopes of burying their child diminished when the police halted the burial plans for a postmortem to be made first. The police forensic team examined the body and confirmed no injury on it consistent with a fall from a building. There was no swelling, no bleeding, no bruises, or even a scratch. Joline and her housemaid were arrested on suspicions of murder, and thus a full investigation was launched. Upon visiting the scene, they found out that the window through which she claimed the boy had jumped was permanently closed. It had an intact lock and lacked burglar bars. This increased the suspicion of foul play, and when the police interrogated the housemaid, she claimed that the boy only fell in the living room and that she was not part of the evil plans and the execution. Further postmortem at Mulago City Mortuary revealed that the boy died due to lack of oxygen in the lungs, and there were no traces of food in the stomach, which indicated that he had been starved for days. Arrangements for the burial were made, but before the body was released, police asked them to do a DNA test to first confirm whether the child belonged to the father or not. The results released on April 4th, 2025 by MBN Clinical Laboratories turned out positive, stating conclusively that the child belonged to Chris, adding to the 2 biological children out of the 5 children he had initially raised and known to be his own. Little Ganwa Rugari was on 7th April 2025 laid to rest in Kavali, his father's ancestral home. Joline did not attend the burial and is still being held at Ginger Road Police Station awaiting her court hearing. Chris is still shocked and devastated, as said by close sources, for what was meant to be a mere divorce hearing has now set in another bitter pill, murder, which is likely going to leave a bitter taste on her tongue and an everlasting scar on Chris's heart. As we await the court's hearing and final verdict, why do you think a mother would go to such extremes as to kill her own child just to avoid a DNA test? Did she do it to spite her husband who was on the verge of divorcing her? Tell us in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and if you like the way we presented this case, kindly subscribe, like the video, and even share it with your family and friends so that you can help our channel to grow. Thank you, and we will see you on the next one.